Welcome to Midlife Moves, where we're figuring out this whole midlife thing one day, one workout, and one what the hell just happened moment at a time. I'm Heather, and if you're navigating career shifts, fitness goals, parenting teenagers, or just wondering when the hell we became the grown-ups, you're in the right place. Let's talk about the real stuff, no filters, just honest conversations and a little bit of chaos. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Heather Francis, and welcome to another episode of Midlife Moves. Before we jump into today's conversation, I want to take a moment to talk about why this episode, and this guest in particular, meant so much to me. My guest today is Anne Taylor Hartzell. She is the author of All Who Wander, and she is someone whose way of moving through life I deeply admire. She has lived a life defined by curiosity, movement, and a willingness to not stay still, which is like the polar opposite of me. She changed careers. She followed a lifelong pull toward travel. She moved across the country in midlife, and she finally wrote a book that had been calling to her for years. As I was reading her book and as I was talking to her, I couldn't help but notice the drastic difference between the way she approached life and the way I approached life. For a long time, my world was just very, very small. Not because I lacked curiosity, but because life required a small world for me. Illness, recovery, motherhood, responsibility. My focus narrowed to survival, really. And, like as we've talked about many times before, I just needed to feel safe. And so, in turn, my world got very small. I did not choose adventure in any capacity until the past couple of years. What Anne talks about so beautifully is that adventure doesn't have to mean being reckless. It doesn't have to mean blowing your life up. Sometimes it just means listening to that quiet nudge. You guys know the one that we rarely listen to. But when we do, it turns out beautifully. She talks about allowing yourself to imagine something more and choosing curiosity over fear, just one small step at a time. In this conversation, we talk about navigating seasons of change, midlife identity shifts, listening to what lights you up, reframing fear, and building community when life looks very different than it used to. In this episode, you are going to feel inspired to move. Not physically, but you are going to feel inspired to take your next step. At least that's how I left this conversation feeling. I'm so excited for you to hear it, as with every one of my guests. So let's get into it. Anne Taylor Hartzell.
Motherhood is complex. One minute you're soaking up the sweetest, most heart-melting moments with your kids, and the next you're hiding in the pantry with a fistful of chocolate, wondering if you're the only one making it all up as you go. Spoiler, we all are. I'm Scotty, a mom of 3, life coach and intuitive who finally said, screw it. I'm done trying to do motherhood the quote right way, and I started trusting my mom tuition instead. Because the right way is whatever works for you. Momplex is where we cut through the noise, ditch the guilt, and figure out how to actually enjoy being a mom without losing ourselves in the process. I'm not here to tell you how to parent. I'm here to help you stop overthinking, stop comparing, and stop feeling like you're failing because you're actually doing so much better than you think. This is a real, unfiltered, explicit as hell mom talk that you will not get in the carpool line. So let's do this. Real convos, lots of laughs, and a whole lot of truth bombs. Welcome to Momplex. P.S. This podcast is explicit. So unless you want your kids casually dropping F-bombs at preschool, grab your earbuds, mama.
Hi, I'm Marianne Weisenthal, host of the LifeSpeak podcast, a show where we dive into real conversations about mental health, resilience, and navigating life's everyday challenges. Each episode, I sit down with leading experts in health, work, and wellness to unpack big topics like burnout, parenting, leadership, anxiety, and personal growth. My guests share their own stories of struggle and resilience, and together we keep it honest, relatable, and practical. Whether you're looking for fresh perspectives or just a moment to feel seen and supported, you'll find it on the LifeSpeak podcast.
Hey listeners, it's Heather here with a quick message before we get into the rest of the episode. I have been blown away by the level of support from you guys. I love seeing how much the topics resonate with all of you and hearing how the episodes make you feel seen. I genuinely appreciate the outpouring of support from everyone. If you've been enjoying the show, there are a few ways you can continue to support the podcast and the team behind it. If you aren't already, follow us on Instagram at the Midlife Moves Podcast. For more behind-the-scenes info on the show and our guests, check out our website, midlifemoves.co. Reviews go a long way. I'd really appreciate a rating and a review on the podcast platform of your choice. And finally, check out the merch store. It's a fantastic way to rep the podcast and help support the team that makes these episodes possible. We've got some great designs for t-shirts and totes available there. Thank you all again so much, and enjoy the rest of the episode. I'm here today with Anne Taylor Hartzell. Anne,
hey,
thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm so excited. We connected online, and I think we're going to be fast friends.
I think so too. So Anne wrote All Who Wander. When the whole connection video went like big, Anne reached out to me and she was like, I have a podcast, and you told me a little bit about your podcast, and you were like, and I wrote a book. Mm-hmm. So she was like, do you want to read it? And I was like, absolutely, I want to read it. And so if you're on YouTube right now, you can see my notes. All Who Wander is not just a book, it's a workbook. And it has some of the prompts in it have caused me to think about things that I haven't thought about in years and or have never given myself the space to think about. So we're going to talk about a couple of those things today. But first, Anne, do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yes. And I've been getting texts from Heather too. It's like she's on the treadmill and she's like, I have a I'm like, oh my God, I love this. This is why I'm doing the work I'm doing. So I'm Anne Taylor Hartzell. I'm a mom of two. I'm almost an empty nester. I have two seniors this year, senior college, senior high school. So I am definitely navigating seasons of change right now. The book, All Who Wander, is a guide for navigating seasons of change. And it really came out of a season where my older daughter left for college. And I started figuring out, like, what do I want to do next? I have a marketing, business, communications. I've been in traditional PR and media relations for almost 3 decades. And I've built a freelance business all around being flexible for my family. And so when my older daughter left and my other one's shortly behind, I started thinking like, well, I've designed my whole business around, being flexible for my family life. And so what do I want to do next? So I'm love to have you here. I'm also in midlife. So navigating this crazy, messy middle of midlife. We were just talking about like having hot flashes before we started recording. It's literally like a crazy time of transition. So I'm so blessed to be here and to share the message with moms and let them know they're not alone.
Before we started recording, we started talking about hot flashes. And I don't know if I'm literally rolling up my sweatpants because I'm like,
I'm with you, girl. I'm with you.
It's all good. We're good. We're going to do it. Okay.
We're pulling them up.
We're just going to be pantsless at some point recording this.
Yes.
That's all right. We just see the chest up.
That's right.
This book is all about choosing your own adventure. And that's really your whole theme. Mm-hmm. What is the next adventure between the travel and between just, the decisions that you have made? What does that really mean to you? So like in everyday life, what does it look like when you're actually choosing your own adventure?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to back it up. So I actually have a background in travel. So I do PR and media relations for tech and travel companies, but I started my travel blog for my family about 15 years ago. Started interviewing people for my All Who Wander podcast. Incidentally, a lot of people were in the travel industry. And so we started talking about like, what are some of the parallels in terms of like how we approach life and how we approach a trip? So when we go on vacation, we have this open mindset, right? We're curious. We are willing to take risks where we like to step outside our comfort zone. We might wander down a street and that's okay, right? Unplanned, and find a really awesome cafe or stumble upon some, souvenir or experience that we'd never thought. Well, we get back into our daily life and we are less adventurous. We are less risk tolerant, right? We feel like we have to follow a prescription plan. And so choosing adventure is really about when you're facing fear or uncertainty is to lean in to that sort of feeling of like, well, how can I approach this like I do a travel experience? So how do I choose adventure over fear? I created a whole choose adventure mindset around it, which is like sort of 5 steps. And we can talk about that here in a little bit, but I wanted to provide a framework for women. So if you say, great, it's easy to say choose adventure, but what does that really mean? It means that you can, lean in and step outside of your anxiety and fear and, take steps towards that next process.
Yeah, because as I started getting into it, I started thinking like, this is not a mindset that I've ever been in a position I didn't know that I could take.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably a lot of it, like a lot of my life has been, and like most women, it's been, like we're checking the boxes. We're taking care of the kids. We're getting the work done. We're taking care of the house. We're taking care of our husbands.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing those things for everyone else. And we're not,
Mm-hmm.
like looking at, like what is my next adventure? What else can I do?
Yeah.
One of the first things you say though is
Okay.
listen to what lights you up.
Yes. Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. What lights you up?
What lights you up?
Okay.
So, yeah. So like if you feel stuck or if you don't know,
Yeah.
if you don't know what lights you up,
Mm-hmm.
what's your next step?
Yeah, absolutely. So I talked to a lot of women. They're like, well, I know I have these things in my heart. And then there's another group of women, which is where most of us are, which is I haven't even had time for years to think about what lights me up. I get up every day. I go to work. I do my thing. I'm taking care of the kids. Like I don't have space. So my first recommendation as part of the first step in the 5-step framework of choosing adventure is to get quiet and listen, because we all have those inner nudges that are calling to us, like, and they might just show up as little whispers every once in a while, right? Like, ooh, I'm really passionate about, health and fitness, or gosh, I love to paint, or I've always had this business idea, right? And those things kind of like you're driving in the car, you're waiting for pickup at carpool, and there's just these little like voices that come to you and say, remember that thing you used to like to do? And the only way we are able to do that is to kind of get quiet and listen. And so that for you could be going to yoga class. It could be going for a run, a great workout, right? It's something where usually it's when I'm moving my body. So when I'm out running, like those things come to me. I don't know if they come to you, but I'm out running and I'm like, once the endorphins hit, I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, yeah. And then I write things down. But there's many women I've talked to in the course of this book too, who are going through pretty heavy seasons of grief. And so whether that's a marriage or a passing of a loved one, and that's okay to be in the space to not know what lights you up. I think it's just more paying attention to when you are ready and you have those healing times, and listening to those nudges that show up when we get quiet. Because we're scrolling all the time, right? We're scrolling, we're inputting, we're listening to news. Like there's no space to listen to our inner wisdom. And so that's the first step.
Well, because you talk about those nudges. I think that as people are listening, they're like, you can identify with it, right? Listeners, like, I think it's something that like, I know I hear that and I'm like, oh, that's that little voice that was like, start a podcast, Heather.
Yes, you listen to the nudge.
I listened to the nudge. But that was like one of the few first times that I had in a really long time. But listening to those nudges can feel scary sometimes, because you're like, okay, well, then what's next? Like, okay, so I do this thing and then what?
Yep.
So those nudges are like, it's your intuition talking to you, really, right?
Yes.
It's saying, like,
yeah. Or if you have faith, right? Like it could be, sort of a higher power guiding, like whatever your belief system is. I believe that like the universe rises to support you in what you're doing, right? And if you're paying attention to your inner wisdom, you're being true to yourself, and you also are listening to sort of like, hey, where am I headed? You know what I mean? I think that sometimes those show up just when you need them. My husband calls it trust and momentum, which is like the fourth step of the choose adventure mindset. But it's like, once you hear those nudges, then you have to sort of like lean in and trust and build that momentum. And you'll be surprised that maybe you don't know exactly what's next, but if you keep taking that next step and that next step, it shows up. I'll give you an example. So this. I made 2 big leaps in this midlife, just turned 50, but the order of things was, I have always, since I was a 5-year-old girl, wanted to live in Southern California. And I'm born and raised in the Northwest. I love it there. We've built our whole life. We raised our kids there, but I'd always come back to the sunshine and the beach. And our daughter decided to move down here to go to college. And it was all of a sudden like, maybe this is the time for us to live in the sunshine and be more active and outside. So last year, about a year ago, October, we made the leap. We found a beach house and we packed up our house in 4 weeks and we moved to California. We like got rid of half of our stuff. We downsized, and we're not quite empty nesters yet, but we're like, hey, this this opportunity presented itself. And so we're going, instead of being afraid of like, oh, what ifs and what we can't do and what can't, we're going to choose adventure, and we're going to take that next step and that next step. And it was the best thing we ever did. And then in the spring, I wrote the book and I finished the book, which is another bucket list item. So, and who knows where that's headed. And I hope it helps so many women navigating the season of change. But those were nudges that I got, and I had to follow them. And the book took 10 years. And the move took a lifetime, but I'm here,
So moving is stressful.
Yes.
We moved 3 miles away, and we laughed because I'm like, I was never closer to divorce with my husband than when we moved. And that was 3 miles. I can't imagine the logistics.
This is another for a podcast, but our move here story was literally insane. Like 4 weeks trying to consolidate half your house that you've, for 20 years have had.
Yeah.
It was absolutely insane. We ended up getting here at 2:00 in the morning. We had to go over the pass. I mean, it was absolutely insane. One day I'll share that story, but it was an exercise in patience for sure. And my nervous system took a while to recover.
Nervous system. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you hear you see like a moving truck and you just start like, no, thank you.
Yeah. It was worth it though. It was worth it.
Flashbacks. Yeah. So part of the resistance that we face, we feel this nudge.
Mm-hmm.
There's fear associated with that.
Yes.
And there's fear associated with, okay, so what if I fail? Name your fear, failure, embarrassing yourself, any number of things. And I assume we'll just run with the move. It doesn't get scarier than that.
Yeah.
So how do you turn that fear into curiosity?
Yeah.
Right. And move from there, because so many things in life, there's so many, we want to do these things, and it doesn't have to be a move. It can be much, much smaller. It can be starting a Instagram page. It can be anything.
Totally.
Reframing that fear into curiosity. You talk about a lot.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So after, the 5 steps really is listening to that nudge, and then, kind of leaning into our core values and what's important to us, and then reframing fear as curiosity. And so that's sort of the 3rd step. And to be honest, if I was to use the move itself really wasn't as scary to me. And I don't know why. It's funny because, I have a therapist, and he's like, it's crazy because the move doesn't seem to be rattling you, but the whole writing a book thing seems to be super anxiety producing.
Really?
So I don't.
But it's you, because it's you that you're putting out there, right?
Absolutely. And I know you appreciate this because you put yourself out there on Instagram with the podcast. And I think because the move felt like it felt in my core, like it was the right thing to do, even though it was leaving everything behind. And my friends were like, are you crazy? I was like, girls, that I love the sunshine and being by the beach, and we are ready for a change, right? And it's also to be for our family in this next stage to be closer together. So that all felt like it aligned with my core values. So even though it was scary and hard, it didn't feel as hard as writing the book. And so I'm going to talk about reframing fear and curiosity with the book, because I was absolutely terrified to put my own story in there, because I thought, who is ever going to care about my little story, right? Who am I? And then all the self-doubt about who am I to write a book? There's so much noise out there. What do I have to contribute? And it kept calling to me. And so I kept having to reframe that fear of all right, I'm putting myself out there. Right. And how can I stay curious? Right. How do I embrace this as an adventure? And then how do I use my own system that I'm developing for this book to write the book? And I did. There were so many times where I got lost in fear and anxiety. And then we talked about this, in midlife, menopause makes it so much harder because anxiety is just amplified. So all you women out there who are I am going crazy. Why am I so anxious? It's a really we're fighting our biology at the same time that we're trying to make all these really big moves. And, everybody's find yourself and your identity. And you're I don't even know.
You're what? What? I can't stop sweating.
There's a lot of fear already in the world and uncertainty. And then there's also this biological part that's happening, and you're trying to sort it out. And it's so different for everyone. And so reframing, I just kept coming back to okay, choose adventure. What does adventure mean to me? And it's very personal, right? Adventure, in the book, I have several examples of people who are adventurous. My friend Richard Banks, who is coined the God, the modern father of adventure travel. He is, going down river rafting in Africa. Like I have friends who are jumping out of planes. Like that's not my kind of adventure. Like my everyday anxiety is literally like, that's enough adrenaline for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like, how do you define adventure for yourself? I think that's really important. And part of that is like, hey, this is how I'm going to show up and choose adventure. And it could be just something as small as, reaching out on DM to talk to you, Heather, and be like, hey, do you want to read my little book? But you never know where it leads, right? And like, you have to follow that and stay curious.
Yeah, I think so. My husband is a rock climber. He does incredible things with his body moving up those walls and up those mountains. And he goes to West Virginia to go climbing. And every time he goes, he's like, you need to come with us. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. No one will have fun if I go with you. I won't have fun. You won't have fun. None of your friends will have fun. It'll be me like panicking at the bottom. So no, thank you. You go have that adventure on your own.
Yeah.
So we must know our limits.
Yes, absolutely. When we talk about fear, I think people have a lot of shame around it, right? And I certainly do. Like I've always been an anxious person, and like anxiety drives me in a lot of ways, right? Because it helps me. I mean, it keeps us safe, right? It also drives us to do better and learn and grow, and because it's uncomfortable. But I think that what I've learned in this process, and I still have it, right? Anxiety is that sometimes it's okay to be afraid, right? And but to keep going. And that's why I love the idea of curiosity being like my friend during that time, right? And I just translate that in my travel vernacular into choosing adventure. So anytime I'm feeling anxious about something that I'm, embarking on that's new, I just say, okay, well, what would I do here? Like, how do I choose adventure in this moment? And it really does bring me back to like, okay, I can do this. You know what I mean? Like I can keep going. I'm going to choose adventure. And it's fun. I mean, I love to get into the deep stuff, and like you can do that in podcasts. I've spent 15 years on social media, and it's very surface level, but people always connect over travel, right? They always want to talk about a meaningful trip they had or like planning a trip. And so it's a great equalizer in terms of, when you're networking or meeting people, new or striking up conversation with colleagues. And I just think it's a natural way to bridge into talking about things that are meaningful for people in a safe way. So
one of the things, this is kind of off topic, not off topic, just off my outline. One of the things that stuck with me was, I don't remember which chapter it was. It was identifying your priorities and making sure. And one of them was a story about a family who loved to travel, and they committed to 10 trips in 10 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And like just prioritizing those trips. And when I read that, I was like, what a good way. And it's just like figuring out that thing that's important to you. And like that thing can be terrifying. Like for me, it was like telling my story, like making sure like other women in midlife don't feel alone, because we're, like we go through all this stuff and we don't talk about it. But it's just like prioritizing yourself and, what matters to you.
And those 10 trips, right? Those 10 trips. So my friend Mike and his wife, they've been friends since college. And so a few years in, they realized they're getting busy with their careers, right? And the time was going really fast. And I always say you have 18 summers with your kids, right? Which really puts it into like, I savor every moment. And they love to travel, and they traveled all over the world before they had kids. And we were incidentally in the same travel. We work for the same travel company. And so we started talking about it. And he said one day they just sat down and they had a scratch pad, and they're like, listen, we have all these places we want to go, and we want to have these experiences with our kids while they're here. And so they did 10 trips in 10 years. And their oldest son just graduated last year, and they have set a new goal as an extended family with adult children to do more trips. But that just kept them grounded. And, when Mike talks about it, they were busy in their life, and maybe they didn't have a lot of like day-to-day time, right? Because they were all busy. And he worked full time, but they look forward to that trip. And he said the best part of the trip was deciding on the trip, planning the trip, like not just going on the trip, but then after the trip, the pictures, right? And that sort of built them around a common purpose and rhythm as a family. And so, it could be about travel, or it could just simply be about having Sunday dinners together as our kids leave, or or finding a regular time throughout the year to get together. So yeah, I think having things like that to where it's really important to you, you can do. It helps ground you.
I loved that. I loved that. And I was like, I wonder if my husband would do that. And I was like, no, he definitely would not. So that's a great idea.
If you're rock climbing, yeah.
If you're rock climbing, we can go white water rafting or rock climbing.
Yeah, but you guys could, but I think it's about, this is why I love travel, because it's unifying for everyone, right? And it gets us outside of our comfort zone. When I did the blog for Hip Travel Mama, it was always like, no, it wasn't about like, how many stamps can I get on my passport? It was how many experiences can I have with my kids where we can be present? The devices are not taking center stage. There's like, we're focused, we're playing cards, we're seeing something new, we're wandering streets together. We're just being present with each other, which is so rare. I think in today's modern family, we fill our schedules. And I had a goalkeeper, was on the D1 track, and I've been in all the things, right? We can fill our kids with busy, but at the end of the day, many of them will not go off to be professional athletes. And that time that we have together is so important. So regardless of how we spend it, in being present and choosing adventure in the day-to-day is just as important as in the big things. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things that you mentioned is as one of the more important things is having an adventure crew.
Yes.
And having a community.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I connected because I expressed that I didn't have a community.
Well, yeah, you had one episode where you said, listen, I have a few friends and that's good, but like, that's okay. Like it was a post I think you had. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I've got a couple of my girlfriends and like, that's my crew and I'm good with that. But so your adventure community, talk to me about that. Like, talk to me about how, because you worked for that, right? Like that was something that you built up consciously.
Yeah. Well, and over the course of the years, I've built up an incredible professional and personal community. But I want to speak to what you said on your Instagram post, which really connected with me, is because I think in this midlife, we are evaluating everything, right? Our identity, what we want to do next, what we would want to do with our time, reviewing like, what's my purpose? Like there's a lot of self-reflection that happens in this. And there's also a lot of change that happens with our relationships. So our friendships, right? Because we've spent decades hanging out with people who lived maybe a couple doors down from us or we're on the soccer field because literally we had no time to invest in friendships that weren't like within our immediate bubble. Yes. And then our kids leave and they go to college or they go off into their adult adventures. And then all those friends, like some of them may stay, but a lot of them were proximity, right? Or friends that were in our season of life and that made sense for that season. One of the things that was really hard for us was that we had this amazing group of friends growing up, like we raised their kids together. And then we had some things happen that I talk about in the book that were, super hard. But it was also that we were changing because the proximity wasn't, or the kids' activities were not there anymore. And so what glued us together was it was wonderful in that season, but our adventure crew changes, right? I had our high school friends and then our college friends, and then we have our parent friends, right? And then we do parenting together. And this is a whole new thing. And now you don't have all those ways to connect. So that's a long answer to your adventure crew, which is I'm actually now in a new city and I'm forcing myself to have to rebuild my adventure crew. And my husband and I building friends, like we've joined a pickleball club to like connect with people there, right?
You want to talk about a way to connect with people.
Oh, yeah.
Pickleball's the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And maybe connecting all sorts of people that you just got to find your crew. Because pickleball, let's create a separate episode on pickleball.
Passionate people.
Passionate.
I love it.
I'm just going to put a pin in that on passionate. Yes.
We'll come back to that.
I've been an athlete my whole life, and I've never seen such a passionate group of athletes.
They're wild. Yeah. I want to tell you a story just really quick. Our community center is like, I don't know, there's maybe a couple thousand people that have memberships, and the police had to be called one night to the community center because there was a pickleball fight. Ththese middle-aged men. There's a bunch of middle-aged men escalating to police involvement over pickleball. It's my favorite story in the world.
I love that. It is definitely a group of passionate people. But, we found a handful of people that are really lovely, right? And I've had to be like, hi, I'm Anne. I'm new here. Like, what do you do? And I also joined a co-working group locally to try to connect with other female founders and women. And I've joined a couple of online virtual, places to kind of try to connect and find my people. And I'm still figuring it out, right? I'm trying to build my adventure crew in this next chapter, but each chapter, whether it's college or parenting or this midlife chapter, requires us to be intentional about building the people around us that are going to lift us up. And I think what surprised me in this midlife shift for me is that I've always been like a nurturer, people pleaser. I'm like, okay, I just, maybe I want everybody to like me. It's not that. It's more like, I just want everybody to feel loved. And like, I maybe was a little bit more flexible with my boundaries when I was younger than I am now. And and it got pretty lonely for a while because I had to kind of put up some boundaries, and you see this natural, shifting when people are doing different things. So what made me connect to your post, really getting back to that, was that my circle got pretty small, right? Because I decided a lot of the relationships I had during that parenting season were just sports related and like convenience. And so those fell away. And then I had dear friendships where they were changing. We were trying to figure out how to fit into our lives. So it got really quiet for a little while. But it forced me to understand, like, how do I want to build the people around me that are going to lift me up, that are going to cheer me on, that are going to meet me and contribute equally to the relationship. And that's all what about building an adventure crew is about. And I talk about it in the book as the fifth step in the choose adventure mindset, because you can know what you want to do. You're listening to your nudge. You're taking the leap. You're aligned with your values. You're building trust and momentum, which is the stage I'm in right now, like talking to you and people about the book. But if you don't have a community of people around you, you won't get as far, and you also won't be like soul connected, right? To be able to like feel the efforts of where you're headed. So, and then there's all the studies, right, about community and the blue zones, about at the end of the day, you can eat all the Mediterranean diet you want. And I know you're all about health, but it's really our communities that are the longevity, masters in our life. So,
yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there's different levels to that community. Like I have plenty of acquaintances, and like most people. But yeah, I think that being intentional about it was really, I love the idea of the co-working space.
Yes. Yeah. There's all these like co-working spaces popping up around the country, some that have virtual, some have in-person events. It's great because you can just get together and collaborate on your businesses and then go away and then, use them as sounding boards. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. And it's not a place for me to sell. It's a place for me to find community, right? And to get a network of people on the same path. And a lot of them actually are younger than me. And I love it because I can kind of share what I know about being a mom of older kids, and they keep me fresh and going, and making sure I'm hip on the latest technology. I'm actually very technology savvy, but like they keep me up to date on like culture and like it's cool. It's a nice little mix.
Yeah, that is nice. That is nice. I love the idea that getting lost might help you find your way.
Yeah.
Can you share a moment where that was true for you, where things didn't go as planned but led you somewhere better? Is there something that you can think of that falls
in every chapter I can think of.
All the time.
And all the time, every time. I talk about, so in the intro, there's a intro that I felt like in order for me to be your guide in helping to navigate change, I wrote a sort of a brief synopsis of my journey in the beginning. You can skip through it and get right to the chapters if you want, but you've read it. And so I wanted to share with everyone the moments in time where there were many times where I felt lost in many chapters of leading up to this moment. There was a moment in college where my major got canceled and I was a sophomore and I knew I wanted to go into advertising, and they cut the whole program. And I spent like 6 months going back I took like a quarter off and I took some classes at community college, and then I decided to go back. And it really changed the trajectory of the work that I was in, because they had opened up a new media program, which ended up being the internet. So I'm dating myself. But that took me into a career in technology, which I would have never planned to do in the .com boom. I would say that probably in I mean, there was times when my daughter was born preemie and she was in the hospital for 5 months and I was really scared. We were really scared. She was 3 pounds, 14 ounces. I didn't know how we were going to navigate life. We were traveling and doing all sorts of things and she fortunately was very healthy, but it was a shift and had me recalibrate my energy, right? Because I had 2 kids and one that was so little. But I think recently, this midlife stage has really been the place where I felt lost the most. When I dropped off our older daughter at college, I did not cope well. I'm just going to be honest. Some moms are like, I did great. I didn't do well at all. So, and it wasn't that I hadn't been preparing for it. It was just more I guess I had not anticipated the physical separation as so hard. And I think you talked about it with your daughters. There's this moment of you have this incredible joy that they have, that this work and everything you've worked for, right? They are independent and strong and confident and capable, and they are going to go choose their own adventure. And you remember being 18, right? And having that time. And then there's this incredible grief. And I felt shame around the grief part about it because I didn't want to take from her joy, but I also couldn't talk to other moms really about how they felt about it. And I felt like we all kind of keep it, a little close to the vest. So it felt a little lonely, but it's been 4 years in the making and I'm working my way through it and I feel so much better. But I think you just got to keep showing up and keep trying new things and keep paying attention to those little nudges and build momentum, right? And reaching out to others and telling them they're not alone as well. So that's helped me.
Yeah, the dropping the kids off at school is hard. I had a really, really hard time with our oldest one. That's how I wound up with dog number 2, So yeah, I didn't handle that one well either. Yeah. That was a good example.
Yeah. And I think a lot of women don't feel great about that because they feel like, gosh, this, I should be feeling better, and kind of pass it off as a joke or whatever. But, I've seen some studies that there's an actual science around the fact that the cells, I don't know, I can't remember who it was, New York Times or Wall Street Journal had an article about how we physically carry around cells as moms, right? Of, our babies and things. And so there's a natural biological separation. But yeah, it's kind of a crazy experience. I guess I had never thought, I think that's part of it. I had never really thought past this point, you're building your career, you're, raising your kids, you don't have a lot of time to think about what's next. And I think midlife kind of hit me a little hard, even though I'm a planner. I have my vision boards every year and I have to set my goals but it was oh no, what does this really look like? It's hard to know because it's been so long,
Yeah, right. Yeah, this was your life. This was your life for so long.
Yeah. But I've talked to some girlfriends about this too. And it's not that I didn't have my own identity. It's not that I didn't have my own work. I kept, I kept my business. I ran my own successful business. I have before she was born. And I love that work and had some great client projects. And I built Hip Travel Mama. And that was a personal brand that I loved, that we got to travel and see the world together as a family. And I, have self-care and I go to the gym and I love yoga and I love running. And so it wasn't I didn't have my own identity and I didn't work at that. I just, maybe it was the nurturing part, right? Was just sort of, I guess I wasn't anticipating where to redirect that.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think we as moms, being needed, even as they get older, they're teenagers, they're in high school, they still need you to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're not there anymore. And you're like, oh,
yeah.
Oh, you don't need me now.
Yeah.
And I have a 26-year-old, so I can tell you that they always need you.
They do, 100%. It's just more, might be maybe midnight when they would have a conversation or,
it's just physically where they need you.
Yeah, totally.
Where they are physically.
Totally. Yeah.
As we wrap up, is there any last things that you would like the listeners to know about the book, about you? Any last words?
Yes. I want you to know that if you are in a season of midlife, you're a mom, maybe you're empty nesting, going through perimenopause, all the things, and you feel alone, I just want you to know that you are not alone and that reach out, book the coffee, go to the networking event, find the co-working space, have the conversation, reach out on LinkedIn. I think the more conversations you can have, the more you feel like you're not alone in this journey. And I think just being honest and showing up, and the scrolling does not help. And I'm speaking to the scrolling doesn't help. So if you could slow down the scroll and find a community of people who maybe just want to have some good, authentic conversations, I think it's a really great place to redirect your energy. And then just get quiet. And whether that's a yoga class, a walk on the beach, going for a run, whatever it is to quiet your mind a little bit will definitely help you start to listen to those little whispers. Yeah, I think that's it. And then if you want to learn more about the book is on Amazon. You can also get it on barnesandnoble.com. And my website is my name, AnneTaylorHartzell.com. And I'm going to be, working on a few cool things to connect some ladies here in the near future. So sign up for the email list. I suppose I should say that, promote.
Where else can they find you? All of this will be in the show notes. Where else can they find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram if you are scrolling on Instagram.
All of these people are on Instagram.
Okay, all right. Let's be fair. All right. All right. We're all scrolling. Let's just say I just said scrolling. That. But you can find me on any social channel at Hip Travel Mama. So yeah, Hip Travel Mama.
Thank you for talking to me today. Thank you for sending me this book.
Yay.
Thank you, my new guide.
I love it.
And thank you for joining me. This was excellent.
Thank you for having me, Heather. It's great. I love having you part of my new adventure crew.
It's excellent. Yeah, it's fun. All right. We'll talk next time.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode. If you had fun, learned something, or just feel a little less alone in the chaos, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if you want to keep the conversation going, come find me on Instagram at HeatherMoves_, because midlife is way more fun when we do it together. Until next time, keep moving forward, or at least keep moving. See ya.